I'm Ryan Besson from the Pop Culturists, and this is our review of Shadow of the Colossus on the PS4. As always, we'll get the formalities out of the way and have a big thank you to PlayStation Australia for providing us the code for this game. We do truly appreciate it. So Shadow of the Colossus on the PS4 is a ground-up remake by Bluepoint Games of the 2005 PS2 classic made by Team Ico and the guys at Studio Japan. So in the game, you play as the Wanderer, a young boy / young adult, where your girlfriend has passed away. So your goal is to find a way to bring her back. At least this is how I interpret it. So you go to this giant shrine, and these very multi-layered voice, creepy, godlike creatures essentially tell you that in order to bring your girlfriend, your partner back, you need to kill 16 colossi. So yeah, then you go across this land, killing 16 F-off creatures, all to bring back the love of your life, I assume. In the same vein as The Last Guardian, which is the first Team Ico game I've ever played, I didn't play Shadow of the Colossus on the PS2, I hadn't played it at all. This game has very limited dialogue, so a lot of the story is very... what you think it is, very interpretive, I guess. That's why when I say what I think the story is that I'm like, I think it's about this, just because it doesn't really sort of clearly tell you what's going on. Which is fine. I love a good interpretive story. I think it's very good. So before we dive in too deep, I do want to give this game some minor leeway. As it is a PS2 game remade for current gen consoles, there are going to be some inherent shortcomings, probably the best way to put it. So there will be some sort of outdated gameplay loops, systems, that sort of thing. And that's fine. I take that with a grain of salt, of course. I'm not going to go into it expecting there to be this, big current AAA experience in terms of how it plays. It's like the same way that people, when Crash Bandicoot came out, they scored it lower because it was too hard. Like, no, that's exactly what Crash Bandicoot was. You just don't remember it that way. As I said, having not played Shadow of the Colossus before, I don't have any nostalgia connected to it or any sort of preconceptions, which I think is probably a good, clean way to go into again, especially an old classic game like this. So when it comes to any remake, one of the first things they do is visually change the game. So that's where we start. The game is just straight up stunning. Like, I'm talking like mind-meltingly good looking in places. The landscapes, the shrines, all the colossi, everything looks spectacular. Now, the characters, however, like the Wanderer and his partner, they do have that very PS2 cinematic sheen to their face. Look a little bit like, not like a doll, but there's like a plasticky sheen to them, which is kind of a bummer. But the world is just fantastic. Wondering how this world would have looked on PS2, I did dive back into some YouTube videos and take a look at what the original PS2 version looked like, and it's rough looking back at it compared to now. Granted, now knowing what 2005 games were like, it was a straight up masterpiece. It was very visually impressive for that time. But now, it's just even better again. So something as simple as, riding aggro, your horse, through these giant fields of literally nothing. But because there is such a beauty to it, the grass, the eagles, the little lizards you find, everything about it just has this wonderful charm to it. And as I said, just by riding through a field, you get this lovely ambiance, I guess. It's kind of hard to put into words what that like is when you're just trekking across to find the colossi. Speaking of the colossi, holy shit, they are cool. They are just big, massive creatures that I genuinely felt bad every time I had to take one down. Because a lot of the time, they are just wandering around an area and you come into their house and then you take them down. Like, it's a really self-motivated reason to take them down, and I felt uncomfortable having to kill them because they still seem kind of sweet and just big, furry stone creatures, really. They all had little cute faces, and one had a huge beard, and the one I felt most comfortable with killing was the sea serpent one. I think it's the 5th or the 6th, because fuck deep water creatures. fuck them. I had no problem killing that at all. But the rest seemed really quite nice. Knowing that this is such an influential classic game, it was nice to see where a lot of origins of things came from. So something as simple as I'm a massive fan of the God of War series, right? So seeing what could have potentially been an inspiration for Santa Monica to build such huge set pieces, like, it was fascinating. It's like when you hear of a band, they're like, oh, our influences were these bands. So you would go and find them bands and you end up falling in love with those bands just because you can sort of feel where it all comes from. And that's exactly what this game was to me. It was going back and trying the classics, seeing the origin of what has become not standard, but a common practice in video games. Like, you can clearly see that this game has really had a powerful effect on games, period. So I played this on a PS4 Pro, and as with many first parties, you do get a couple of different options when it comes to how it runs on the Pro. So there was the performance mode, which had the game running at 1080p and pumping out about 60 frames per second. Then there is the graphics mode, which runs at about 30 and pushes out as close to 4K as possible. I personally played on performance mode. I felt this game would have really benefited from a higher frame rate, which I do certainly think it did. It was smooth, it was great, and like it still looked fantastic on 1080. A game like this is difficult to review simply because, as I mentioned, it is a PS2 game, so it's difficult to put into words particular things about it. I know that sounds sort of vague. It's just like I can't really compare it to, you know, games that have come out last year like Assassin's Creed Origins and Wolfenstein 2 and, you know, all these big games that have come out because it doesn't quite have that new gameness to it. I know it doesn't make any sense. I know it doesn't make any sense. That's what makes it super difficult. Like, from a story perspective, I felt that it was incredibly basic. I didn't really find it to be overall moving. I think the act of hunting the Colossi was more moving than anything I got from the story. But saying that, there was something about this game that kept me coming back. Because we've had this code for a little bit now. We've had it for a while. And a couple other games have come out since. I'm talking like Dragon Ball FighterZ and Monster Hunter World, and I've dabbled in all of them. But I kept thinking about Shadow of the Colossus. An example was after I finished the initial stream for the first 2 hours, we were up to the 4th Colossus, I believe, the bird. I spent the next day just thinking about that Colossi and how to take it down. Like, I was a whole day at work, and that's all I probably shouldn't have thought about entirely day at work. There was work stuff to think about, but I kept thinking about the bird. That's all I thought about. And then when I'd play it for a couple of hours again and I'd step away, I'd be thinking about the next Colossi. So the game has certainly left an impression on me without a doubt. I've absolutely loved my experience with it. So with our reviews here at The Pop Culturist, we don't really score games anymore. We find it a little outdated and doesn't quite allow for the full conversation that we particularly want to have about games. So when we finish up our reviews, we look at pretty much one thing. Would we recommend it? Yes or no? And with Shadow of the Colossus, yeah, I would very much recommend it. If you're someone that has played Shadow of the Colossus before, yeah, pick it up. Like, are you crazy? Because if you've played it before, I guarantee you love this game and you're going to want to play it again because this is by far the best way to play it. So it was great on, I imagine it was great on PS2. I imagine the remaster was fantastic on the PS3, but the remake on PS4 is just out of this world. And if you're someone like myself that has never played Shadow of the Colossus before, you are in for a treat. It is a fantastic experience to sort of see, as I mentioned, the origins of many gameplay systems, many world building aspects. Even though, as another podcast clearly stated it, the game does feel like an open sandbox with not much sand. While you spend a lot of time sort of wandering around in nothingness, when you do find the things you're focusing on, whether it be the Colossi or the shrines or whatever, there is such a level of detail and thought in those moments that you forget about the kind of sluggish journey to get there. So when you see a Colossi for the first time, it's awe-inspiring. Then as you sit there trying to break down how to attack it, how to get up there, how to get on it, and then you do eventually take it down, and then you feel this level of just like somberness, I guess, a bit of sorrow. It's kind of astounding how much this game moved me without really having a lot of dialogue, a lot of main story push for me personally. But no, I really, really enjoyed my time with Shadow of the Colossus, and I think you will too. And that is our review of Shadow of the Colossus on the PS4. The game hits digital and physical store shelves on the 6th of February 2018. Let us know what you think of the game when you pick it up in the comments below, or let us know of your history with Shadow of the Colossus. Is this something that you're going to want to pick up? If you've never dived in it before, all the options. Comment below, let us know what you think. And of course, we are trying to get to 1,000 subs by the 20th of February, so we can continue doing something as simple as scheduling videos. So if you do like what we do, be sure to subscribe as well. So I'm Ryan Betson from the Pop Culturists, and thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next one.